Hey guys, welcome back to JR14. Here I am with another video for you guys today, and today we're going to be installing something new for the Honda Accord. So without further ado, let's get to it right now. Hi guys, it's me, JR14 again. I hope you guys do like my previous videos. We are back in the Accord yet again. I know we have a lot of stuff happen with the Accord, but I actually wanted to talk to you guys simply about dash cameras, right? As you guys have seen my channel before, I have a bunch of different dash cameras. I've tried, a bunch of different dash cameras with numerous different vehicles. And predominantly, I've done an install on my brother's wife's A3. I've done a Blackview camera in my Project Mark 7, and I've done numerous cameras in the Accord, and I just haven't found the right one that kind of just does everything I need it to do. And I'm very picky on that, right? Now this camera right here, and I'm gonna go into it really quickly. Most dash cameras that I usually see look like this. If you want to have something aftermarket, they're usually predominantly on Amazon, and they look like this. So if I can get it off, that'll be great. So they look like this. This is a dash camera that either extends out to go over your existing rear view mirror. They don't have any ones that fully replace your mirror. So you have these two little rubber straps in the back. I never noticed it, so it never really bothers me. But if you're looking at it from the windshield inside, it does get in. It does look a little afterthought. It looks like an afterthought, right? So these are great. They're okay for what I need them for. However, I've had issues with ones in the past. I'm having a little bit of an issue with this one. It's not terrible, but I always find room for improvement. So I'm actually getting rid of this setup. I actually have the wiring harness that's going through the whole interior of the car to the rear trunk, to a camera in the rear trunk. I'm going to be replacing all that today with Permeto. So this dash camera actually replaces your rear view mirror altogether. It's not a system where you strap it onto your existing mirror. You actually get a new bracket that mounts up to the windshield and a whole brand new rear view mirror that replaces everything, right? Another good positive about this is that usually I run this to a cigarette lighter. So for instance, I have a cable that runs to the rear, a channel that runs to the rear channel, the rear camera in the rear of the car, through a separate channel. And then I have the power cable. The power cable, considering the fact that I don't like wires being shown, I'm really weird on that. The only wires that are exposed are these two that hang down here, and literally the mirror, it plugs into the top of the mirror here. So those are the only two ones that I've seen. I don't even like that, but I can't help it, right? I can't really figure that portion out of it, to completely get rid of the wires. However, the power cables ran all the way through here, down the A-pillar, down the side of the dashboard, underneath the driver's side dashboard, and it's tucked underneath this, the center console, and you see a little bit of wire exposed here, and that wire is all the way to my cigarette lighter in the armrest here. Again, it never really gets in the way. I never really have an issue with it getting in the way, but if I can have a cleaner setup, I would prefer to have a much cleaner setup. So I'm gonna do the unboxing with this, but first things first, before I even get started with this video, before I even talk about this, I have to rip all of this wiring out so we could start off fresh and new and ready just to get everything installed. So without further ado, let me go ahead, tear everything apart. I'm not gonna show you guys that, because it has nothing to do with the install of this video. And I'm gonna start with a stock mirror, and we're gonna plug everything up first just to make sure everything works. Okay, so I got all the wiring out. So, yep, I got all the old wiring out. As you can see, it was all with powered by a cigarette lighter inside the armrest. One of the things I really truly like about this kit, like I said before, was that one, I said the first thing before, which is that it doesn't seem like an afterthought. It's an actual mirror replacement. So I'll be taking this whole thing off the windshield and replacing the entire piece itself. That's number one. Number two is that it uses a power source from the fuses. So I don't have to run a wire up here down the A-pillar to a cigarette lighter. I free up a cigarette lighter space. I could have used the one in here and save myself trouble with the previous one. Like I said, I don't want wires exposed. I'm happy that this is all out now. After taking all the wires out, I'm kind of like glad that it's all out of the car. So another thing that I'm gonna have to do that I'm probably gonna try to figure out myself, but I will bring you guys along with the process. I may be doing it wrong. I need to check for power with fuses. I need power on a fuse. So that's how this is powered. It has an ATA fuse in this kit that comes with the kit. So the only wire that'll be running through the car is for the rear camera that I'm gonna be mounting right above my license plate in the rear. That's the only thing I'm gonna have to do. Other than that, we should be perfectly fine in terms of just the other power wire will run from the actual mirror itself down to the fuse box, which there's an interior fuse box on the Accord. Underneath, there's one in the engine bay, but there's also another one, there's a kick panel right where you have your rest, right where the rest pedal is for your feet. So we're gonna find one of the fuses in there, tap it into there, and then we should be good. Okay, so this is the kit right here. So you get this box, slide this off, and then once we open this box, we have everything inside of here. So inside the box, we have the following. We have, first of all, the mirror itself. We're gonna pull that out first. So as you can see here, it's an actual full mirror. So it's a full piece, full mirror, has all your functionality buttons on the bottom here. It looks like it has two speakers out here, and it has a connection cable on the back of this, which gets routed up into the headliner. Now, this is a much thicker wire than the other ones were. I think I can swing it by tucking it in here, by just loosening some things. I might have to take apart the top of the headliner because it gets tight right where the mirror is, and it loosens up to where I can tuck the wire enough in there for the rest of it. So we do have this wire right here. We do have a couple of screen protectors that come with the mirror as well. I mean, this might be for anti-glare purposes. You do have a set of instructions, which are also right here. And hopefully they tell me about the wiring for this as far as the hard wiring, because that's going to be a little interesting for me. It's not that I'm not up for the challenge, it's just a different step, that's all. And here you have all the wiring. So you have they give you little hangers for the wiring that you're going to be running through, which we're not going to need because we're going to be tucking it throughout the headliner of the car. And I'm going to zip tie it to the wiring harness where the trunk area is. This is a little pry tool to pry the wire and push it in into the headliner to cramp in the tight spaces where you're going to be putting it in. A cleaning cloth. This looks like the clip that the mirror goes into. Another thing I want to talk about that too is that, like I said, this is a mirror that actually will replace this. So they did send me over a bracket specifically for this car. When you order this kit, it's wise just to go to them and just figure out exactly the one you need. So as you can see, this will literally mount right into my existing windshield at the top. So it comes along with this as well. They were very adamant on making sure that they had the right car. I think this is the same for all Hondas. Don't quote me on it though. But we should be good there. I'm gonna put this back in this box. Put that there. And then I think the rest of this is basically just the wiring harness. So this is the rear camera here. This is the same camera that I had before. Wasn't a bad camera. Oh no, it looks a little different. It definitely looks a little different. This is like a Sony camera as well, a branded camera as well. This goes in the rear of the car. So I'll be mounting this on the rear, pop right up in there, and then I'll be siliconing the hole that the wire is gonna go in through, and then I'll connect everything behind the trunk. So we have that. We also do have, what is this? Oh, I guess it comes with like a pre-bracket already for everything with the screwdriver, but they gave me the correct one specifically for my car. So this must be like a universal piece right here. And then I believe this comes with a lot of stuff. This is the front camera. So most of these other cameras have the camera on the back of the mirror themselves. This doesn't. So this will literally be mounted up, and then the other portion of it will just be a camera that will be mounted in front of it. So I won't see that camera at all, and it'll just plug right directly into the wiring harness. And I believe they give you like a piece to cover up the wires, because there's going to be a wire that runs up from the mirror to the headliner like the modern cars. So here's that bracket for it right here where the wires channel into. So I'm trying to figure out how that's gonna mount onto the windshield. Again, I gotta look at the instructions on that to figure out exactly what this, and this is all the wiring here. So we have a fuse, we have an add a fuse here. We gotta figure out how to wire this. So this is ACC, this one is B positive, this one's a ground. And then these are all the connections that this plugs into. This is for the camera itself to run it from power from the rear, from the front of the camera, from the front dash to the rear camera. So this is that harness right there. I'm familiar with that. This one's gonna be a little technical for me. This is a little, we have a couple of add fuses in here. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. I don't know where we can tap this into, but we're gonna find out. We're definitely gonna find out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this installed right now. Okay, so as you guys can see here, here's the fuse box for these wires, right? So there's 3 different type of wires you're gonna need. You're gonna need this wire right here, this is for, you need power, you need the power on when the keys turn on, but you need the power off when the keys turned off. That's number 1. Number 2 is this yellow wire. So you already have it plugged in. This, you need a consistent power source. So one way I did that is basically by doing this right here. So if I pull this out, I have a multimeter here. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but I have a multimeter right here. And what I did with this multimeter is that I found a ground and I ran voltage to it. So I'm gonna put that like right up here for a minute. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm just gonna hopefully lay it up here and it won't move too much while I'm trying to figure this out and show you guys stuff I'm trying to do for you guys right here, right? All right, so you see it's at 0, 0 right now, right? All right, so I'm gonna put this on the ground. I'm gonna pull this wire out first, and now that's gonna fall when I do that. Like I said, it was gonna fall as soon as I did it, but let's do you guys. All right, so I'm gonna put this multimeter back up here. Shout out to Greg. I really don't know how to use these too well. I'm not big on the wiring aspect of things. Shout out to my buddy Greg, Gregory Pouncey. All right, so now I'm gonna put this on, there we go, right here. And then when I put this in here, that should change. So I don't know if you guys can see that where my hand is, but you see it's at 12.72 volts. So this is running constant 12, almost 13 volts when the car shut off. So I need that yellow wire to be there. Hopefully you guys have seen that. Hopefully you guys saw that. So like I said, shout out to Greg. Greg is he's nerdy when it comes down to the electrical stuff, but he's like nerdy in the best way possible. Cause ohms and amps and volts, no, that type of stuff. But I want you guys to look at this gauge right here. That gauge is gonna change when I put this to the power source in this thing right here. So I don't know if you guys can see that with my hand. You can't, but you see where it says 12 right there? If I take it out, it's gonna go back to 0. If I put it back in, it reads 12 again. So I know that's the power source I need for the yellow wire, because it runs consistent power no matter if the car is on or off. And I want to plug this wire so I don't lose it in the last fuse right there. So this one, now I need a consistent power when the key is turned on. So I'm gonna grab my car key real quick if I can find it. Put the key in the ignition. There we go. So I need another fuse spot. The good thing about the Accord, on a base Accord, even at that, there's all these empty slots here that are at my disposal. I can use any of these fuses that are empty because they're already pinned. Just make sure, and I'm gonna turn this key off because it's already bothering me. Just make sure they're pinned from factory if they're not being used. So for instance, oh, it just turned off on its own. So as you can see here, the rear fog light is this first one all the way here. This is a US car, so it doesn't have a rear fog light. So a right rear fog light, so it doesn't have that from factory. So that one could be used probably for when the car turns on or off. What I'm going to check out right now is I'm gonna check the fuse again. Now I'm gonna check, see if I can mount this up right here to where you guys can see it. And I wanna make sure that this thing has power only when the car has power. So when I put this key in and I turn it into auxiliary mode, then I should have the other fuses. So now what I wanna do is run that multimeter again, put this on my ground first. Here, on the top here. And again, if you don't know where a ground is, you gotta find like a metal spot where there's a bolt. And I'm gonna just stick this in there. So I'm trying to make sure I'm in the slot here. So right now it's not drawing any current, right? If I turn the key though, there we go. Now if I turn the key and try that again, if this is pinned, it should show me some voltage. It's not showing me anything. This one's not showing me anything. That one's not showing me anything. That one's not showing me anything. Dang, none of these are showing me anything. I'm getting no love from these sockets. Maybe up here? Okay, so I'm running this top one up here between these two 7.5s. It's for heated mirrors, but this car doesn't have heated mirrors. So I need power only when the car is on. So right now you guys can't see it. All right guys, so the fuse in between these, so these two red ones, see where this yellow one is? There's a space between these two, right up here. In between these two is a slot for, I think there's maybe two slots in there. Let's take a see if we can get a closer look without getting in the middle of this clutch pedal. No, there's just one slot. So that one slot is at 12 volts when the car is running. But when the car is off, I'm gonna do the same thing with the multimeter and it should be at 0. So when the car's off with the key out of the ignition, 0.1 volt. So we're running no voltage to this. So I'm gonna plug my red fuse in between here. And then I'm gonna run my ground. So now I know where I'm gonna run my constant. I know where I'm gonna run my ACC, which is gonna be there. And then I'm gonna mount a place for my ground. For the ground, you wanna make sure that you have a spot where it's an exposed bolt. So if you see this wire right here, this red one on the bottom here, this one right here, this is for my fog lights, when I ran my fog lights. So what I'm gonna do is, I gotta remove this kick panel and run these wires up. So that's how I have to do it. But there's up here, I'm gonna show you where right here. So I don't know if you see that wire, but I have it cramped in between that metal source and that bolt, which acts as a ground. So that's where I'm gonna run. I'm gonna unbolt this screw and I'm gonna slide this ground into that same spot so we can have the same ground for two different things. And then we should be good to go from there. Okay, so before putting all the wires, tucking all the wires, making everything look nice and pretty, it's very important, and they actually recommend you do this. It literally says it on the instructions, and it says it right on the camera. Please do bench test this before installing the cameras and everything. So what bench testing is just, I found my sources of power, which I already plugged in. I've mounted the ground wire. All I have to do is just plug these ends from that wiring harness, one to the camera, and they actually label everything here. So one goes to the camera, which think it's this. And then one's for the rear cam, one's for the front cam, and then one's for the actual mirror itself. So this goes into the mirror itself. So we're gonna plug that in really quickly here. Okay, so that's plugged in. And then we have the wiring harness for everything else. So I need to go back in this box. All right, well, that's good. We got power. Okay, well, that did something. I don't know. Okay, it made a chime and it lit up a little bit. Now it doesn't show anything, so that's good. Maybe it's because the car's not on. So now I want to make sure. Let me just plug up the front and rear cameras. So the rear camera's here. I'm just gonna take this out of the bag real quick. So we're gonna we're gonna just plug this to the rear portion of it. So it was rear cam, front cam. This is rear camera right here. So we'll plug that in. So that rear camera's in. And then we have front camera, which is also back in this box, which is this guy right here. So again, once we have everything routed, we could just I can then clean everything up. But the very important thing to do with this whole installation, to take anything away from this installation, trust me, you do not want to run all these wires and then there's something wrong with the kit where it's going to require you to rip everything apart and do everything over again. Trust me, I've been there before with dash cameras in the past, or just things in general. It's always wise just to check everything first. Okay, so now I have my front camera plugged in, I have my rear camera plugged in, and I have the mirror. Now, if I turn this key, if I put the key, if I can find my keys, that'd be great. Oh, if I put the key in the ignition, this camera should automatically turn on with the key, which it does, which is great. Now again, I just want to make sure it did a little chime. Okay, so this is English. Okay, so obviously I have to set up the settings with this beforehand. So this is my front camera, which I'm seeing movement. English. So you see me moving the front camera? It's weird, and it has this blue tint on it. It has this blue tint on it because I didn't take the plastic off yet. For some reason, you cannot plug this rear camera directly into the socket. You have to plug it through this wiring harness first. So now I'm seeing both images. I don't know if you guys can see that front and rear, you probably can't. But now I know this whole thing works. So now the hard part is done, which is wiring it. Hopefully you guys understood that. If you don't, please comment on the bottom if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to help you guys out with whatever you need. But now the fun part is this is all wired up and everything works. So now we just have to mount everything. So without further ado, let's go ahead and I'm gonna show you how I mount everything and get everything installed. All right, so first things first, we gotta remove my Easy Pass. We don't need that right now. And also we're gonna remove this mirror. So the way to do that, you tilt this down and then we have to slide this down. And usually you slide it, you're supposed to be able to slide it down and then you have to come up sideways. You have to do sideways to put it in. You have to put it in sideways and then tilt over. So that's the old bracket for it right there. There's the old mirror, leastly desired. I mean, it's really small and I haven't used this. I mean, I've always used it obviously, but this has been on here since the day I got the car. And I haven't used it. Like I've always had a dash camera to cover this, so I always forget. So now I have to get the, this guy. So I have to get this and the screws for it. Tow truck in my complex is ready to tow people yet again. Never ceases to amaze me. Comments down below if you ever been towed before, because I have, and it's not fun. It's not a fun experience. It's not fun at all. So I love this. I love the fact that it has a channel to channel the wires through. I love that. So so it has some give too, it has some suspension play in it. So once you have to like get this cable in, so you're not like forcing it. I just wish they did a little bit of a better job with the cable management. I mean, this is trick, like this is great. Like I'm not gonna see, I gotta make sure that everything is screwed in. So there's the screws for this. There's 4 of them, four little small, oh, there's more than 4, but essentially it comes with 4, or does it, or you have to bolt it in more? No, there's only 4 screws. They give you extras. I'm assuming that you guys are giving me extras, that's great. Basically, the part that mounts into the mirror, this little stem here, bolts right into the back of the mirror. So then you can have full adjustment of the mirror from there, which is, again, For all the kits that I've seen, I have to definitely give them kudos for how they have this assembly. It's a lot of little small parts, but it's gonna work. And that's the most important part. As long as it works, I'm big with things working. I mean, I'm sure most people are, but I've bought things before that have not worked and it's been frustrating. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this kit is around almost $400, but you know, hopefully it's worth it. I mean, I'm sure that it is worth it. Now, one disclaimer about the wiring harness. If you don't have any extra fuses to plug it into, you can cut the ends of those off. We don't recommend it. They probably don't recommend it, but there is a workaround where you kind of like solder and then you do an add a fuse. So shout out to Greg, like I said before, shout out to him because he knows more about this electrical, the wiring aspect of it. I get a little weird when it comes to wiring. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm a DIYer by heart. I love DIYing things, but I love doing it myself. But the issue sometimes is like wiring is my kryptonite because I don't like fires, especially electrical fires. Electrical fires are hard to put out. And I don't want to get electrocuted. Who wants to do that? You know, who wants to get electrocuted? Nobody does. I don't. You don't. You know, give myself the benefit of the doubt. Call up a friend. Ask for help. This install with this looks pretty simple. I love the fact I'm really going to clean this up. I really like OEM Plus modernizing interior with like technology stuff. I'm really into that. I'm really geeked on that. I love that aspect of like this new technology. Like some people don't have the money to afford a brand new car with all this technology in it. So why not just buy stuff like this to incorporate it into the car? So I've been dealing with this for the past hour. As you can see, the sun is starting to go down now. I have everything wired up. I just have to run the rear cables to the rear camera of the car, which I'm gonna do separately. But everything in the front is all tucked away and nice and neat. And then everything up front here, I already got the front camera installed right there. I can adjust this accordingly as I go. I like it where it's sitting right here. The only thing that's difficult with this is the wiring cable management. I got it to work somewhat well, okay? Maybe, I don't really know. It's not bothering me that much, so it's fine. I got everything else tucked away. Now I'm just gonna put this back at the end. I'm gonna put the headliner back because I had to pull this down to make room for this wire, which now I have to run all the way to the back of the car. Once I'm finished with everything, I'm gonna show you where I ran everything, how I ran everything in the operation of this camera. All right, so I'll get into it. I'm sorry for the delay. I'm sorry I'm not showing you the process. It's just, I'm learning as I go along with it too. So, okay guys, this is day 2 of this rear view camera mirror install. And it's day 2 because it's something on my part that I did wrong. It has nothing to do with the install of this at all. I figured I would just troubleshoot what I had an issue with, and then I would come back to you guys the next day because I ran out of daylight. But essentially the issue was, the issue unfortunately came down to the, to some of the wiring. Not any fault of the dash camera itself. It was because I didn't ground something correctly, and I actually had a wire touch another wire and it kept shorting out my interior lights. So once I put everything back together, I realized the car battery was dying. So I went ahead and tried to look into that because I had the accessory mode on, since I was trying to just test the camera on with accessory mode on and with the engine on and with the engine off. So I kept the key in accessory. I didn't realize I left it in accessory mode. So the battery died. I jumped the battery. I have a jump starter in the car. Jumped the battery, and then my interior lights didn't work anymore. But once I took everything apart, the only thing I took out was the dome lights, which has a own ground circuit with its own circuit built in, with 2 screws in the front here that bolt up to the body of the car, and one of those is a ground, which is on the passenger side light, which is on the ground. So inside of that, that's what I guess it was touching something, or maybe I installed it incorrectly. I don't know. There's one of the screws is longer than the other. Maybe that had something to do with it. And I also took out the visor. Now the visor has the lights in it on the side here. So there was wiring in here when I took this out. The only reason why I took this out because I was running the wires here, and I needed to pull this portion of the headliner down so that I'm able to get into, tucking the wires away and running it towards the back of the car. Now, I'm gonna walk through with you guys exactly what I did. Everything's installed now, it works well. I'm actually gonna do a quick brief view of the camera. I'm just going to show exactly what I think of this camera, what I think of the install process. And yeah, so I'm gonna take you guys along with me right now, and you guys are gonna see exactly how I routed everything. So let's jump in and go ahead. So first things first, here is the camera right here. It actually looks really, really cool. It's an anti-glare screen, the rear view mirror right here. And like I said, it fits very well. I have a little channel here for my wires, so you don't see any wires running into the dome light here, which is actually really cool. It's an anti-glare screen to give you 2 anti-glare protectors. I tried this one out. There's a little bit of dust in here, so I may actually use the second one and do a little bit of a better job. They're still bubbling, but I just installed this last night. I like how firm it is. Like, it's not going anywhere. It looks like an OEM piece. Like, it looks like an OEM mirror here, and I actually really like the way that this is. Once I show you the wiring or how I ran everything, I will go ahead and then show you the fuses and the wiring, how to install everything, and then I will show you the operation of this. So let's go. All right, guys, well, I routed it. We're right underneath the driver pedal. As you can see, this is the rest pedal right here. And then we have the, the open up the front hood right here. And then we also have the fuse box right here. So once we pull this out, as you can see here, there's a bunch of fuses. Now, as you can see here, I needed a constant, which is this yellow wire, and I needed an ACC, which I needed current for when the key is in the ignition and turn into accessory mode, and I needed constant power. So on the Accord, I'll actually give you a little tip. So these 3 right here, these ones with X's, are actually pinned, but they're actually pinned here, but there's nothing that it goes to. Now, I actually did some research yesterday. Shout out to Greg, who, is really, really good when it comes to wiring, wiring diagrams and fuses and how they work and everything else. He was telling me that, maybe it's from an EXL or why these 3 fuses aren't being used. But I noticed here, like, for instance, this is sunroof. My car doesn't have a sunroof. Powered seats here, heated seats. I don't have power seats or heated seats. It's an SE, so it doesn't come with those features from the EX. Daylight, radio, interior light. So what I ended up doing is that I used the multimeter. This one right here, I plugged the constant power into. So that was a constant power source with the key off. It was at 12.72 volts. And then this one right here is just ACC current. So that I used for the ACC current wire right there. So as you can see, and then the red one right here, the fuses. In a case like this where there isn't available fuses, you would have to check in each individual one. Another way you can do this that also was recommended to me by Jeff and by Greg is that you use an AdaFuse. Basically, you would cut the ends of these off, and then you would you would solder it into a AdaFuse, pull the fuse out that you need, and then plug that in, and then there's 2 little accessory ports to use on that AdaFuse, and you would plug that whole circuit back in, kind of like this right here. So this one is my radio, and as you can see, this is exactly what I'm talking about here. See, it's soldered into this connector, and then I have 2 10-amp fuses, the one that was originally in this slot, and the other one that's for my radio. This one's for my radio right here. So that's how I have it routed. These 2 wires have their own fuses built in. They're tucked away in this panel. So God forbid if something does short out in the car, these fuses are the first ones to blow, not anything in the fuse box, which will cause a fire or short everything out in the fuses box. And I would have to source another fuse box or toast any wires in here. The issue that I ran into last night, like I said, right down here, behind this wire is another fuse. And I actually went ahead and kept blowing out the interior fuse. Like I said, it was something issues with the grounding of the dome lights, which is the reason why this, this didn't work out in terms of my interior lights. But everything is functional now, everything works, and there's no issues at all. So that's how I have it wired down here. So I'm gonna close this back up, and I'll take you how I ran everything to the rear of the car. So everything is ran up this little line right here. It's a little way to cut out all the wires so you don't see it. Everything's tucked in here. I have the power wire, which is ran down all the way to the fuse box like I just showed you, and it's ran down the passenger side, but the rear cameras ran all the way up here, up the A pillar, through the headliner, through this B pillar. Through that, I tucked it between the seat and behind the rear seats and into the trunk liner on the side, and I ran it up the trunk hinge, up into the side of the trunk in one of the holes of the trunk. to an exterior rear camera. So that's pretty much how I ended up running everything through the car with the wiring, and it actually worked out very, very well. Again, the install, if you know what you're doing, it's not as bad. It's a little labor intensive, but it's not too crazy. I think it's there's no splicing of any wires for any sort. Now with this kit, they do have a way where you could put the car in reverse, and then this dash camera, the dash camera, the mirror will come on in the rear screen, and it'll give you guidelines. The only reason why I didn't run that is because this is a rear view mirror. I use it, a normal mirror, to look behind me. So if I have a digital image or a digital video of it playing at all times, I don't necessarily need to run it to where the parking lights would come on, where the rear reverse lights come on, that I would install that. I would just pretty much just keep it on at all times, and when I'm ready to reverse, I could just look up and it's already on for me. But now let's get into the actual camera. Okay guys, so here's everything right in front of me right now. As you can see here, it gives me navigation. It gives me my navigation, my speed. It gives me everything down here. So it gives me sound. I want sound off. It gives me GPS, all the notifications here as well. The time and the date, like I said, the speed. Now the cool thing about this camera, it's like majority of cameras, you can adjust the height of it. You can adjust the height of it, so you can adjust how high you want it or how low you want it. As you can see, there's huge adjustability here. I don't know why you always want to look at the sky, but you can. I usually have it like right somewhere like there, so I can always see behind me. It's a fishbowl end, so this is from blind spot to blind spot, left side to right side of my vehicle. If you have the camera mounted upside down, you can go into settings and flip the image. Now my front camera is mounted right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's mounted right here. Again, I can adjust this to angle it the way that I want to, and the image shows here. I'm sorry for the display if it looks weird on camera, just because of the fact it's an anti-glare screen. I should actually close the door, but that's not going to really make a difference. So this is the rear of this is the front of the car here. So as you can see, this is what's parked right in front of me. You see that? It's here. You can look at the front of you, you can look behind you, or you can look at both of the screens together. So this is the rear of the car, this is the front of the car. Like I said, I like to have it on rear at all times. Now there's a few functional buttons here. Again, you can just, instead of using the touch screen, you can just flip the image here, which like I said, I'm going to keep it on the rear. And then if you want to save an image, you just, like, let's say if you see something that's happening in real time and you want to take a picture of it, like an accident, you hit this button right here, it automatically saves it. I believe this came with a 64 gig card or a 120. I think it's a 64 gigabyte card. All you have to do, as soon as you turn this on, it's going to ask you language, formatting the card, and go through some basic settings. If you click the screen and you go to settings, there's a bunch of them here that you can view. So you have your storage. So it says 58.5 gigs. A part of that's using the software and the interface. So it is a 64 gig card. 2K. So one of the things I'm going to give a little ding onto this is that there's other cameras on the market that are 4K. I'm not mad at the image though. It's very clear. It's very good at night too. I actually used this last night after putting it in, just making sure everything is working well, and everything worked well. Parking mode, low battery voltage protection, the language, the date and time display mode. The screen's always on, automatically shut down. You can have it set like that. GPS information, screen display, rear flip. The only thing I possibly will try to figure out later on to change, I'm not going to do with you guys in the video, is change the speed from kilometers to miles per hour. But other than that, it's literally a good piece. Like, this is not something that's strapped onto your existing mirror. It is a brand new, it's a brand new mirror, as you can see here. There's no strap on, like little rubber straps that go onto the mirror, which I like. It looks a little bit cleaner to me. I hope it lasts a long time. I know I've had experiences with different of the strap-on mirrors in the past, and every single one of them has given me an issue. So hopefully this one works out well. But guys, that's going to conclude this video of this camera install. I absolutely love it. I think it's a great unit to have. First of all, like I said, I love the functionality of it. I love the fact it's a replacement piece rather than just something added on like an afterthought. Like I said, the install is pretty much similar to installing any of these other dash cameras. The only difference is that I like and also another fact that I like is that you have to hardwire it into the fuse box. It's not something that you can plug into a cigarette lighter. It just gives like a little bit of a cleaner look, and it runs off the operation of the car, not based on a cigarette lighter. So I do love that functionality of it. I love the fact, like I said, it looks like an OEM piece. It makes the car look a little bit modern, and I like it. I think it, like I said, for those reasons alone, I think I like it. The operation of it is like any other dash camera. I think it's great in my opinion as far as the resolution, especially the rear image behind me. I've had bad experiences with cameras in the past where it looks great at first, but after a while it doesn't look good. As far as like even out of the box, this is probably like the best camera that I've had in the rear, and it's not even a 4K camera, which is awesome. But yeah, if you did like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to JR14. And you guys always remember that cars are a lifestyle.